So you've had some transcendental experiences with traveling. And
Yes.
so what are some of your highlights?
Well, I used to live on the road.
You used to hitchhike.
Yes, I hitchhiked. I used to follow bands.
Which bands?
When I was younger, I used to follow the Grateful Dead.
The Grateful Dead. Okay.
When Jerry Garcia was alive, and then I followed Fish. I've seen them like 200 times.
Really?
Gone all over the country. It was
What
it was a
makes you-
nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah.
The thing with seeing that many Fish shows is that when you leave your hometown, they would do like 30 days on the road. And you're going to all 30 of those shows, whether or not you care to see all of them or whether or not you still have interest, like you're there, you're on the road and you just keep going. And it was a big traveling caravan. And
So you were with a group of people traveling to go to all the Fish shows?
yes.
So, but why? I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. Like, why? Why did you?
So many different things. So many people feel it's just drugs were involved. I do have to say that, but that wasn't the end all of the experience, because I would do those same drugs in my hometown and not really want to do them. You know what I mean? And not have nearly like the experiences. Traveling, it's such an extension of consciousness. We live, universe is based on space and time. And as we move through time, all the different little places that I've been, I remember at one time I gave this girl a kiss on a street corner in Minneapolis, and it was this bustling corner, and there were, hundreds of people just walking by, and we had met earlier, and then we kissed and we had our moment, and I almost felt love like right then and there. And there's times where I'll just think back to that corner and it's still there. There's people still walking by. I'm sure there's still been many awkward kisses there. And every time I think about it, I still exist there. I think about what's happening there now, how it's probably changed. And you just have an extension of your consciousness. Like when you live life in a town, your memories and your influence and everything is just confined to that area. But I remember going to a Fish show one time, and there were these kids sitting next to me, and I just turned to one of the kids. I said, "Hey, do you guys want to do any acid?" And they were like, "Yeah." And
you were that guy.
I wasn't like pushing. I wasn't like, "Yeah, guys want to." We were just talking. And, we were being friends. I was like, "Hey, I have some." I didn't sell it.
No,
I just gave it to them.
I'm just kidding.
And then 2 years later, I saw them at another concert in Maryland. This was, and it had just changed their lives. They had found such enlightenment, which is why, drugs. I don't really, stand behind like cocaine and heroin and those types of things. This was all like, psychedelics, mind expansion.
I did shrooms for like the first time, like 2 months ago. Like,
what'd you think?
Not the first time. The first time I ever had a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was crazy. It was really like, I couldn't believe how crazy it was. I turned into a spider. I'm not even, it was.
Did you like it?
No, it was horrifying. It was like, it's like skulls and crossbones started coming out of my, started appearing like on the walls and stuff. And, so I have like, I have like a community here, with my neighbors and stuff. So I was like, actually like I was getting dressed and I was like going to go to work, and I like didn't want to go to work. I forget what was going on. Oh, there was like this whole family issue happening, and I was just like kind of, just feeling that. And I was like, okay, well, I have to go to work. And so I was like leaving, and then I ran into my neighbor on the stairs, and then he was just like, oh, hey, how's it going? And I was just like, oh, hi. And he's like, I have shrooms. Do you want to go do shrooms with me? And it was just one of those things where it was just like, okay, like I passed my neighbor on the stairs and he offered to do shrooms, and it's like, I don't know, like FOMO or something, just, I didn't want to go to work. So I just thought, okay, this is Jesus Christ telling me, Caroline, go and do shrooms. And so I was like, okay, Jesus, since you've commanded it. And, that was kind of my, that's how I justify things. I guess I just pretend it's Jesus telling me. And so I justified bad behavior, and he gave me like one little mushroom and I had it, and he was like, okay, so like I wanted to watch Vertigo, and I was really in this big kick with Alfred Hitchcock. So I was like, I want to watch Vertigo and have a trip, and and whatever watching Vertigo triggers is, you know, that's just what I needed to experience. And so we started doing shrooms, and so we were like taking them throughout the night and stuff, and I watched Vertigo and nothing happens. Like I have no trigger, like nothing. And I wanted to have a trip. Like I wanted something to happen. And so, and nothing happened. It was just, I just watched the movie and it was fine. And so then he was like, "Oh, do you want to watch something else?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "What do you want to watch?" And then he was like, "How about?" And so he suggested Moulin Rouge. And by the way, like if you do shrooms, like Moulin Rouge is like the perfect movie to watch. So like the way it layers and stuff, like the colors are just like, it's like you're meant to watch Moulin Rouge on shrooms. Like that's how it's made. And so it gets to this scene where I literally have like an out of body experience and stuff. And then that's when it goes sour. And then so I come back downstairs, and then my shrooms spirit guide comes with me, and he's like, just like making sure I'm okay and stuff. And so I'm like sitting on the floor, and then I look at my arm, and it's like a spider leg, and it's the color of my hair. And wow. I know. And so like, I'm like, oh, it's a spider leg. And then the guy is just like, oh, wait a second. Oh, no, it's not. And I'm like, oh, my God. And then I look over, and then my other arm is a spider leg. And I'm a fucking spider. I'm like literally a spider. I turned into a spider. And so I'm just sitting on the floor, like crying, like that I'm a spider. And he's just like, it's okay. It's fine. And then I turn back into myself that sort of fades, and I'm fine. And,
see, I've had the experience where I've turned into a butterfly.
Really?
And it's been roses and sunshine. You know what I mean? You see, it goes the complete opposite direction. And I would just highly recommend just being out in nature.
But like, if you have a bad trip versus a good trip, like what does that mean? Like, I mean, because you could have a good trip and stuff.
What that means is that you weren't in the right place. Very often it's a reaction to your environment. I've known that just from concerts, having to go into back when I was dressing as a boy, going into like a big public men's room and then just being, oh my God, this is so horrible. This is so horrible. Then getting back to the seat, and then Jerry Garcia would come out and play, and he was this big happy bear. And, I used to see like the, sheet music, the little stanzas of music.
Yeah.
I would see those just dancing places. What that is, it's a reaction to your environment, sometimes dehydration. Because I know that I've pushed the limits with those types of experiences. I gave a presentation in college one time, high on LSD, and I got an A on it. And it was I had a great time doing it. I've flown cross country before, many times actually. I really enjoyed that. The Denver airports is one of a kind architectural structure. It has this, it's a big white canopy that it's the largest source of diffused lighting, I think, in the world. There's a movie 12 Monkeys, I believe, Kubrick. I think that was was it Kubrick? That's right. The final scene in 12 Monkeys was filmed at the Denver airport, and it was heaven, I believe they were going to. And I've had amazing experiences with it. And what that means is,
with the Denver airport, or with 12 Monkeys, or with LSD?
With everything.
Oh.
With all of it. Just with LSD and just, just like pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
Doing things that, like giving that presentation. I still remember what it was about. It was about the Body Shop, the chain that with one of the first people to sell cosmetics that were cruelty-free from animals.
The body. Oh, you mean like not the strip club?
Yeah, no. The cosmetic. I don't even know if they're still in business anymore. They were called the Body Shop.
Yeah, they're still in business.
Okay, yeah, I was up there talking about it, and it was just so great. Like, this lady's making makeup, and they're not hurting animals, and it's like, and she's still making money, and we can keep everything the same. And I was just thinking about all these great concepts, and the teacher was kind of like an older, kind of like hippie-ish lady, and Another lesson I learned through that experience is I was really nervous doing it, and I just put on a tie, and I gave the presentation in a tie. And there's something about just wearing a suit and just dressing the part. I guess it's been a theme of my life. Put on a tie and acted like I knew what I was doing. And she was like this happy little flower just sitting there and just smiling. And it was, like a sunflower just has like these like radiance coming off of it. She was just like this little sunflower. And like all the people that were watching me, they were just like these happy little smiley faces. And I was talking about this great thing. And I loved the way that the lights, there was like a light on this was a college auditorium. Mm-hmm. And so there was like a light on where the person who was speaking was standing. And I just thought it was so great. And then I got out of that. And then I just went to a bar for the rest of the afternoon and told everybody what I did. But it just sounds to me like you're just probably in the wrong place, being it flips over in the complete opposite direction to where, like you're not the spider, you're just the beautiful dove, or the rose petal, and goes the completely opposite direction. And just going back to the story about those kids I met at that one show, when I saw them 2 years later, it just seemed like they were traveling and, they were just like having a lot of the same experiences that I was having, and they were thriving off of them. And that was, with following Fish, I loved Fish's music. I listened to him all the time. I listened to him sober. I still, when they're on tour, I still go on their website and I see what songs they play every single day.
What does that make you feel? It's just like a consistency thing. Like it seems like it's like a security blanket. Like bands in movies and stuff can definitely be that way.
It's so funny how popular baseball is, and a lot of what people like. I remember on that show X-Files, the guy Mulder was obsessed with the box scores. And he was saying that it just provided a sense of constancy.
Yeah.
That no matter what happens, I forget how he put it, like whoever's president, whatever people are wearing, the game is still the same. There are hits, there are runs, there are errors, and it just everything can just be sorted and ordered. And I think that's the same thing with Fish. I've been seeing him for over 20 years. So much has happened. Turned into a female, and they're just still, still set one, intermission, set two, encore. It's just still, it's that sense of constancy that it's so funny how, baseball, it's such like a traditional, like Republican, older person's kind of hobby. And here I am like as a, younger, more progressive person. And that's, still looking for that, same sense of constancy. And that just goes to show as different as we are, we're all the same.
We are. I totally agree. And I don't know, like sometimes it's like I don't know, it's like weird having things in common with people, like you read about like people in history and stuff, mm-hmm. and the stuff that they were into, or like kind of I don't know, I always found it really fascinating, like Marilyn Monroe. And one of the things that she did before she committed suicide was she called her stepson, or from like, I think it was from from one of her marriages. Like mm-hmm. she had a stepson that she stayed in touch with and that she was close with. And she called him and she just asked him if he had broken up with this girl, because he had a girlfriend. She didn't like his girlfriend. And so she asked, so she literally called him. She was like, "Are you still with that girl?" And he was like, "No, I broke up with her. Don't worry." And she's like, "Okay, good. Because I don't think she was very nice to you." And then she just told him that she thought he was a really great kid and said goodbye to him. And I don't know, I always just thought that was so that's something I would do. I don't know why, but it was just
tying up loose ends.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean, it was just I don't know, just something about that just felt so, just something really relatable, like a relatable thing that she did. Mm-hmm. And just kind of, but it's like, she's not just, your Aunt Marilyn. She's not your, like a girl you went to school with. She's not you. Mm-hmm. She's Marilyn Monroe. She's like this big historical figure. And it's, I don't know, like you kind of like find like is constancy in people, you know, and just no
That's
matter.
saying that we all put our pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I love knowing that. It's funny, that's the thing with art. You know, you'll see these people, they rise to such greatness and then they still just crash their car into a telephone pole. You know, like celebrities and artists and everything. They tend to just illustrate you know, just humanity.
Oh,
and
for sure.
how
I mean,
we're
because
all
I remember when Philip Seymour Hoffman died. Did we talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman? Or
no.
I remember when he died and stuff, and just being like the shock of like, just it doesn't matter who you are, you can still be so unhappy and just succumb in your bathtub, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it wasn't like he was this prestigious person. He had this career that like so many people would kill for. He had,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a beautiful wife and children. He, you know, this is somebody who had everything and he was still missing something.
Gosh, that's so weird you mentioned him. I had this odd experience. I do Postmates, and I brought a bunch of booze and ice to the rapper Mac Miller's house. He died this year,
Right.
and I was there maybe like 10 days beforehand. And he gave me a $50 tip.
That's nice.
And ever since then, I didn't know who he was, and I've been listening to his music. And he's been like this little ghost on my shoulder. You know, it's so funny that I would like listen to like gangster rap or whatever, but so many of the lines have had these little entendres, as though he's just been like this little like angel, I guess, on my shoulder through all the things he says. And right before he died, he compared himself to Philip Seymour Hoffman and the demons that he was struggling with. And it was almost as though he forecasted his own death in this interview right before he died, talking about that. And I think that just goes to show how no matter who we are, as someone as prestigious as, you know, Philip Seymour Hoffman, or even just somebody, you know, as rough and tumble as like Mac Miller, you know, we're all as great as we like to see ourselves. I guess basically just the more you try to deny human nature, the more you serve to illustrate it. And the more that, you know, like one of the things that Mac Miller was talking about was just being isolated and just being depressed. And when I was there, I was like, he's got such a nice house. You know, how can you be upset? You have all this money. I was there, you know, it was up in the hills. It was just a beautiful place. And it's like, that's the thing.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's very, I mean, once you get those things, it's still empty. That what's going on in here is still going to be going on in there.
Yeah. But, and it just seems the more that someone becomes larger than life, the more that life seems to just mock them and just illustrate how they're not. You know, and I think that's the ultimate fantasy, is just coming here, you know, coming to LA, making money and getting the big house, and then suddenly just realizing that I'm still a normal person, you know, would just explain like the high death rate. Robin Williams, for example, you know.
Well, it's also just like, I mean, having people want to be around you for reasons other than you being you.
Yes.
And
yes.
I mean, there's something I mean, so devastating. Like, I mean, for me, like with dating or with guys and stuff, it's just like, oh, this person only wanted sex. Like this person, this was purely a sexual thing. And the only reason this person was around was because of was because of sex. And that's depressing. That can put me I lose sleep because of that. I've cried myself to sleep because of that. Like, you know, it's like, oh, like I was just a sexual object to this person. And you know, and so I mean, I bet that probably happens to, you know, the rich and famous all the time, but it's because of, you know, something like money or status or that kind of thing. And so
I get that because I own a lot of nice clothing that I purchased when I was in great financial standing. But now, you know, just being a comic, I'm in tatters right now. And so what?
Hi, Joe. Okay, Joe is going to class. Say goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
That's the little marker right there. So yeah, it says 15 minutes.
Okay, 15 minutes. Okay. And then, how do I know if it's off?
You just hold the power button down.
Okay. And then that I'll just turn off and. Okay.
Sorry, I gotta run.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for everything.
Bye, Joe.
Appreciate it.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks a lot. Right on. Okay, so what were we?
No idea.
Oh, one of the things you were talking about, just being upset with the guys who are just using you for sex.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's like you think that they're around because of this, inner person that
Mm-hmm.
this inner being that provides, spiritual,
Yes.
emotional wealth to this person, which is
Yes.
actually not at all what it is.
Oh, and what I
And
was
it's,
talking about, what I was the point
yeah.
that I wanted to add to that was just how I have a lot of clothing that I purchased when I was making good money. I was in great financial standing. Living in LA for 2 years, I'm wiped out. I'm broke, and I'm a comic, and it's going to be a while before I really start to see any money out of this. So I'll meet girls who they see the nice clothes, they see the confidence. And then when they find out that I'm not rich and famous, then it just, and part of the reason why I haven't really been like applying myself the way I should be down here. I've been in LA for 2 years and I have not gone on one audition. I haven't tried to do anything because I remember how people saw me at the times in my life when I was down and out. And just have this resentment of the idea that all of a sudden, let's say, okay, I go on an audition and if things go well and I get some role on TV, all of a sudden those people are going to be nice to me. And I think that ultimately is like my greatest fear is becoming successful and then not seeing the world for what it is and not seeing people for who they are.
Well, I mean, I think it's, I think forgiveness is such like, I don't know. I feel like just forgiveness is such a lacking thing in our society now. It's just like, it's such an like appreciated virtue that and it's not even seen as a virtue. It's not even seen as a good thing.
Saying you're sorry is now seen as a means of like demasculating yourself.
Right. And I mean, if you do succeed, and I'm sure you will, you know what I mean? I think that, yeah, of course. I really, yeah, of course. I mean, you can forgive those people and that's how you make change. And I don't know, like I mean there's just so many. I mean, I do have like a shit list. I think everybody does, and like there's that like those people that you love to exact revenge on and stuff. But it's I don't know, like but what would that do? What would destroying somebody do? Like what would hurting somebody do? What would like turning it around on somebody do for me? And it's like it wouldn't do anything except make me feel bad. And so I don't know. And I know that there have been times where it's like somebody has been out to get me and then I had a chance where I had power over them and I didn't take it. And that felt amazing. And I didn't have to live with anything. I didn't have to live with guilt. I didn't have to live with feeling like a bad person. And, I don't know, like, so I mean, just from where I work and just from, living in LA, you see some of like the biggest massive, like the most massive pieces of shits like you'll ever meet, and it's like, I know that I wouldn't feel good slamming the door in somebody's face and stuff. And I mean, I think like yesterday I saw this little old lady with a cane struggling with her groceries and she was walking down the street and I walked past her really fast and I was like, I should have asked her if she needed help. And then it bothered me all the way walking home. Like it bothered me that I didn't ask this woman if she needed help. And it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just like, what would, I don't know, like what, sometimes I wonder, like, just, I'm going to spend a day just being a piece of shit to people. I'm going to slam doors in people's faces. I'm going to like not get out of the way. I'm going to like, I'm just going to, I'm just not going to, all these things that we take for granted, just like, casual politeness and stuff, I'm just going to completely abandon. I'm going to play my music without headphones on in a public space. Like I'm going to do all of this stuff that like people, I can't stand people do and see how that makes me feel. And it would make me, I know it would make me feel horrible. It would make me feel like a bad person. So it's like, if that would make me feel that way, then it probably makes them not feel very good either. And so, my point is lacking, I guess, but
no, what I believe what you were like, what you were talking about earlier is just the triviality of revenge.
Well, right. I mean, it's just like, even like with the Kevin Hart thing and stuff, it's just like something that happened 10 years ago. And it's just like, where's the forgiveness for people? You know, where's like you have to give people like just a little bit of room to make a mistake, you know, just like a little bit of wiggle room to make those mistakes and to say the wrong thing sometimes. And it's just like, just that little bit of wiggle room just would have made it so Kevin Hart would have been hosting the Oscars this year. And it's like, because he didn't have that little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of forgiveness, like he's not going to host the Oscars. And it's just, you know, so who wins? Nobody does. And, I don't know. It's just like, I know that there's places in my life where I can be very severe on people, like, you know, absent fathers and I can be very, very severe and very, very judgmental and very like, you can go to hell. And
what's interesting with the whole Me Too thing now, you know, we're at this phase where it's like, okay, these men were, you know, doing these, you know, aggressive acts towards women in various forms, and they were just not, you know, sanctioned at all. And so now, you know, we've drawn the line, we've called them out. Take a guy like, say, like Louis C.K., for example, you know, and I agree with everything that's going on, but what's going to be interesting to see is now what do we do with him? And what do we do with people who have done things that are wrong, who, you know, how do we bring them back into society? How do we forgive the people, you know, like, you know, there's different, obviously, for somebody like Harvey Weinstein, the only forgiveness is prison.
Well, right.
You know,
yeah.
but there
I mean, but at the same time, I don't think justice justice is lack of forgiveness. I would never think of justice that way. You know, I think
that's a great way to put it.
That's
a great way to put it.
Right.
And I think that's what you were trying to get at. You know, it's just how do we, you know, forgive but still be just.
Right.
You know, and how do we do, you know, say a guy like when Michael Richards did that thing at the Laugh Factory.
Michael Richards?
He was Kramer from Seinfeld. And he called black people the N-word when he was on stage.
Ooh.
And
right.
Do you remember that?
I mean, I've heard of it.
Okay. And as the story unfolded, it turned out he had black friends and he wasn't like this like raging racist. He said something in the heat of the moment that he regretted. He said it for shock value and for hurt value. And then it's like, now what? Like what? And many people came forward. Black people were like, I'm friends with him, you know, and he's not like inherently necessarily a racist person. He wasn't to me, you know. And so what do we do with those people? You know, what do we do with like Kevin Hart? You know, somebody like with Louis' situation, it was wrong what he did, but he didn't quite understand it was wrong because they didn't really object to him at the time, you know, and now he understands that his status muffled their objections. And if they would have objected, he wouldn't have done it. And so now, like, what do we do with someone like him? You know, how do we move forward?
I mean, it's all about empathy training, you know, and it's just like about like, you know, putting people face to face with each other and like, okay, look at how she's reacting and look at how like she's experiencing life now that you did this. And it's like, I mean, and also it's just like, I'm sure any person who's half decent, if like, I mean, I'm sure like hearing that a girl was really uncomfortable when you did this sexual act with her and that she didn't enjoy it and she didn't like it and she now she's really hurt and angry by it. I'm sure any halfway decent person would just feel awful about that.
Yeah.
And so you really have to hope that that's what somebody like Louis C.K. is experiencing and that he feels awful. And it's like, but you have to let people live their lives. And unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, but I mean, well, it can be unfortunate in a lot of circumstances. It's like where somebody's fans love their art more than they love, you know, that
R. Kelly, for example, and that whole thing. There's a big documentary on him.
I know that's just coming out.
But I mean, that's more of a cut and dry case.
But it was just everybody knew and stuff. It wasn't a big secret and stuff. And it's just, I don't know. And it's just one of those things. This is what really bugs me is that like when everyone acts like it's a big secret or like it's a big surprise or like it's a big shock when it's not. Everybody knows these things and stuff. I mean, LA and the industry is a very small town. And that's the thing. That was what really bothered me about Oprah and like Meryl Streep is that when they all said that they had no idea, when it's like I knew. Like, how did I know about Harvey Weinstein? Like, how did I know about Harvey Weinstein and what Harvey Weinstein did? And Meryl Streep had no idea. You know, I like that's such bullshit. That's like nobody buys that. Nobody believes her. But it's like I don't know, like, it's like, why can't, I mean, accountability and being human and just, I mean, looking the other way, we all look the other way.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to. I mean, if like I want to wear my clothes that are made in China, I have to look away, you know,
Yes.
in order to wear the clothes that are made in China. And like, if I want to eat a hamburger, I have to look away that the cow suffered and died a horrifyingly egregious death in order for me to have that hamburger. We all have to look away. And so it's like, so now that we have to look at victims, how do we?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all hypocrites.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting to see if the Me Too movement, will they forgive those who are truly sorry? And in the instances where, like Aziz Ansari, you know, not at all to defend what happens, but the next day when he found out, he was very apologetic, right to the thing. I believe he even, I don't know if he said the word sorry, but they showed the text messages the next day when the girl sent them, and you know, just said this and this, and you could tell, like,
talking about that, I mean, it's just like he put himself out there. I mean, I'm sorry, but he wrote a book about feminist dating. Like, I mean,
I didn't know that.
Oh, I mean, it's just, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like he really set himself up that it's just, I mean, it's.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Like I said, not to defend any of those people, but what do we do with them now?
Well, I mean, you know? And Aziz Ansari, I mean, honestly, I mean, like, I've gone on a date with a guy that was kind of and it went sort of like that, you know, and I mean, and I've ran into him and seen him, you know, places, and it's just like, oh, that guy, you know what I mean? But it's like, I mean, I don't know, like, it was one of those things where it's just like, I never saw that. I didn't see him as somebody who victimized me. And, I don't know. But at the same time, like, this guy didn't put himself out to me as a feminist. He didn't, you know, and then, and from what I knew about him, like how he was kind of made sense and stuff. And so I think that, I mean, that's the thing, like, feminism is so confusing. I'm confused by women too. When women say they're feminists and then they say something that's like the most not feminist thing you could ever hear. And it's like, and and sometimes, I don't know, and it's just like, just stop saying you're a feminist. Like, don't say you're a feminist. Like, you're just going to disappoint people, and people are going to look to you for, you know, how you treat women and how you, like, handle yourself in those situations. And if you're handling yourself in ways that are really anti-women, then you're kind of hurting women by calling yourself a feminist.
We're all hypocrites.
But, for sure. For sure. Yes.
Hypocrites.
Yes. I just wish.
That's how I'm surviving LA, in fact, is people will drive you crazy down here.
Right.
And every time that starts to happen, I just have to remind myself that there are things about me that would drive them crazy.
Right.
And, you know,
I mean,
just go about my day.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I think I'll never call myself a good person because I feel
a good person.
But I feel like the people who, once you start looking at yourself like, I'm a good person, and this is why I think virtue signaling is such a toxic thing to do, actually, is because once you start giving yourself those fake good feelings that aren't earned, like, I'm a good person because I'm a feminist and because I support equal rights and that sort of thing, then it's like, even if you don't actually put those behaviors into practice in your lifestyle and stuff, like, you could be a freaking slave owner and just go on Facebook and be like, I'm anti-slavery and stuff. And it's like, and you get to feel like you're a good person and that you're anti-slavery, even though you own slaves. And it's just like, the feelings are separate from actions.
Yes.
And so it's like, you have people who are total pieces of shit feeling like good people because of platforms like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, even though they're horrible pieces of shit. And so I'll never call myself a good person because I just feel like I'm not even like saying like just like feminists or anybody. It's just like, I mean, I've seen this really badly at churches, like where you'll meet horrible people at church. Horrible people. But they're like horrible people, but they feel like they're amazing, wonderful, good human beings because they're a pastor. And it's just like,
it's the same thing in the hippie scene.
I know.
Same thing. There were people who were so anti what the ideals and the values, such opportunists. And and that's just the hypocrisy of it all.
Well,
I had a college professor who said this thing, that there are only two kinds of people in the world. There are good people and there are bad people. And there is no way to tell the difference. And he described how there are people in prison who have better